do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
And good morning and welcome to the CRCS, the Caloration Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. This is July the 5th, 2022 edition, and we welcome you to the program. For those of you that are new, if you call this number, 516-453-9921, and you tell the call screener that you are a new caller, we have something set up specially for you. Just make sure that you give the call screener your name, and so that I can properly give you the introduction. You can use a VGQ, which, is really your opinion or on something because you're qualified to speak on whatever it is. And you can also ask a question. And depending upon how many people on the line, usually I'll let you ask a question. Some people want a follow-up, but I'm going to ask you really not to do that, or don't be slick about it. Just ask your question, the main question, so that Mr. Fuller can answer it. You can speak slowly so that it can be understood, and remember the rules. You want to stay codified, so you don't go to a second question until the answer is gotten in the first question is answered. So you can, again, call this number again, and that number is 516-453-9921. Now, you can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. And at a certain point in time, I will read that, but I will also let you know, I will say, got it, so that you know that your Gmail will fall in rotation, and as time permits, it will be read, as I have several here in front of me, and they date back a little while, but the callers come first. You can also join the chat room, and all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and then you want to click on where it says shows or programs, and you want the Produced Justice Show. You click on that, and then the chat room becomes available. You click on that, and you are in the chat room. So you can do that. You can do that. We're still on being codified, living codified, so you may want to do that. Yes, and by the way, new callers. For books. Listen, we're still having a little problem with the. I think he said the new book, but the old book is in. I think the word guide is in, but we're almost finished with the distribution of the new book, the revised version. I think that's the problem that we're having, but that is, as we speak, that is being addressed. So hopefully by next week that will be done. But you can get the materials from what Mr. Fuller is going to be talking about by going to producejustice.com. That is producejustice.com. And you can also, I understand, you can use Amazon.com also, and just mention this program, and something is set up specially for that one there. Okay, let's do this. Starting off, let me say, introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay. Now, this part of the program here, we give Neely Fuller a chance to give what I call the thoughts and expressions on the mind of Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, what is on your mind this day, or what you would like to express to the listeners before we commence with the entire program?
Well, I wake up every morning thinking about the entire system of what we call, what, according to what I have written and what I think about, is the world government and how it affects everybody who is on the planet Earth. And I call it the world government, and all of its effects in all of the areas of activity, how that world government affects how people think, speak, and act in economics, in education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And, of course, some people say health, and the system of the world government that we have affects people in the area of health, who gets it, who will be healthy and who will not be healthy, and what health is. The definition of words, very important in any language, what the definitions of those words are in any language, and particularly in the English language, and how, like words, do motivate people to think in certain ways. That's why we go to what we call schools all over the world. People say, well, I'm trying to get in position to see to it that I get an education. And how do you get an education? Meaning, and what is it? It's learning. Learning about what? All the things that you need to know. That's what education is. Everything that you need to know. You need to be learned it from someone. That's what all schools are set up for, universities, etc. And the universe itself is a university, which you learn. You learn something, should be trying to learn something every day. So I always wake up with the broad view of the world that we're in and what we're supposed to be. When I say we, I mean everybody on the planet. What everybody on the planet is supposed to wake up in the morning thinking about and go to bed at night thinking about. Thinking about what? Why we're here. We're here apparently for some purpose, because we do things, and what is it we're supposed to be doing that's better than other things that we are doing, and try to improve on the things that we are doing using the time and energy, we, meaning all of the people on the planet who are here. So basically, I always try to stay focused on we are here to solve problems. And how do I come to that conclusion? Because we have problems. So you just keep asking yourself that question. Why are people here on the planet Earth? We're here for a purpose. And some people say, they have their different views of why we're here through the various religious voices that we have. But then what is religion? Religion is just simply how you think about why we are here. That's any religion, why we are here, and how we're supposed to be going about using the time and energy that we are given while we're here. So it's just a word that you say, how do you use your time and energy? It's the same as economics or education. What do you use it for? Many people who swear by their individual religions will say, well, we're here to do the things that our religions require us to do. But when you look at what religion requires people to do, you come to the conclusion that if people are in action, they're either doing something that should be done or they're doing something that shouldn't be done according to their individual religions. But it all comes under the umbrella of problem solving. So everybody's here, you can conclude, without making anybody angry, I guess, here to solve problems. What problems? The ones that are right in front of you. And that's something people should wake up in the morning and thinking about. Problem solving. Mm-hmm. And so we have, getting back to the premise, we have a world government. That world government is called the system of white supremacy, if you're willing to tell the truth. That's the most powerful government in recorded history. And what is white supremacy? It's white people mistreating people who they classify as non-white and dominating those people. Dominating and mistreating. Those are the two major elements in white supremacy. So the question is raised, is that the kind of government and the kind of problem, or is it a problem, that we should be focused on? And the logical conclusion is yes. And so you say, well, we're trying to get rid of it, and we sometimes call it white culture versus black culture. So then you got other definitions that you have to search for these terms. What is white culture? Well, white culture is simply white supremacy. And what is non-white culture or black culture that we talk about? Black culture in the system of white supremacy is a reaction to the system of white supremacy, since that's the most powerful culture. Black culture is not the most powerful culture. White supremacy is the most powerful culture. And black culture is subject to the system of white supremacy. So then all of black culture is just a reaction to the system of white supremacy. Truth be told, logically speaking. So what we want to do is replace the system of white supremacy, not with black culture, but with a whole new culture called justice. And what is justice? Guaranteeing that no one is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that should figure into anybody's religion, anybody's educational system, anybody's culture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I woke up this morning thinking about the broad view and also the current event view, the shootings. Now, that's a part of white culture. In July of 2022, we had a day yesterday, July the 4th, 2022, celebrating a part of white culture, which is what? Shooting. And the people went out and bought what they call fireworks to imitate what? The sound of gunfire. And they had some fireworks, that imitated the sound of gunfire. And they had some fireworks that was real gunfire. And they call it active shooters. Well, I don't know how shooters can be shooters without being active, but that's the that first word they put in front of shooter. That's to give it emphasis, I guess. All shooters are active. And so mass shooters, active shooters, they are shooting, and people are falling down, and some of them are dead, and some of them are in pretty bad shape and will be that for a long time. And that's a part of what? White culture, the glorification of violence, particularly through the instruments that do shooting. And so what sets people's minds to that? And that's what I'm thinking about. And do these things make problems? The answer is yes. But when you glorify problem making, what you put out is what you get. And so we need a counter system for that. And that's what a system of justice would do for everybody.
Yes, sir.
So you got to codify that. Now, that's what I've been thinking about. Now we can take calls, and people can tell me whatever they're thinking about in any of those areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, and the problems we're having. And the main thing for this program is not just keep going around in a circle talking about the problems, but solutions, constructive results in everything that we think, say, and do every day. Because if you get a constructive result, you're working against the system of racism, and you're promoting justice. Every time you do anything that produces a constructive result.
Okay. Let me interrupt here for a serious matter here. For everybody, chat room and callers, there's a problem that I think is going to happen in the next 10 to 15 minutes where you may be disconnected. Something has gone wrong in there. But if you are disconnected, chatters and those that are on hold and so forth are listening to the program, just go back to the website and reconnect with the new link, and you'll be back on. Now, that's what I was just told, that I don't know all the details, but if Mr. Fuller and myself are cut off, just go back to the website and get connected to the new the link that is on there. Okay. So let's move on. All right, thank you, Mr. Fuller, for the thoughts and expressions that you had there. And while we're here, let's go to New York and let's go to Darnell. Darnell, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question as we try to get you in? There you go. As we try to get you in here. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
There was an incident that happened in I believe Ohio, where a victim of racism was murdered by law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
I think his last name was Mr. Walker. I want to ask Mr. Fuller, why should the victims of white supremacy notice that he violated the 3 stops? Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee, and why the cause and effect happened the way it happened. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fuller.
White culture in the system of white supremacy teaches that a fleeing black person, first of all, black person told to stop, or it's implied in a situation where a black person obeys what a white person tells them to do, is a part of white culture. So, and the scenario is that black person is really not a person. That black person is an animal. So when you have a bear in your backyard, a monkey in your backyard, you get your gun in white culture. And you say, get out of my yard, or either stay where you are and let me examine you and see what you're up to out here in my yard, rummaging in the trash and trying to do whatever you're doing, because you're always doing something, if you are a black person, that you shouldn't be doing, and let me investigate you, find out what you're doing, because everything that you do that I didn't tell you to do is something that you shouldn't be doing, regardless of what it is. So you're an animal. I'm taught that. You're just another one of the animals, and you used to be called 3/5 of a person, whatever that means. Just, something's kind of similar to a person, but really not a person. This some type of, what is that thing coming down the street? A thing, a target for my shotgun or my rifle or my pistol. So when that is put into your mind in school and in everyday existence, and when people start talking about history, they talk about these savages and whatnot, these animals in Godfather 1 in the movies. They say, well, hey, we'll give drugs to those black people in their neighborhoods. We won't have it in our neighborhoods if we watch closely. Give it to the coloreds up there in Harlem. They're nothing but animals anyway. I mean, who cares what happens to them? So in answer to your question, that's it. So when that animal is shot 1 time, 2 times, 60 times, so what? I told the animal to stop. Now, this is a special type of animal. That animal knows what stop means. But it took off running. When a white person tells a black person to stop, that's what that means. And that's going to continue to mean that until the end of white supremacy. So what else is new? But people are not teaching black people that. You bet not run. Don't you even think about running. They can run you as long as you can find something to step on. There ain't no way for you to get away from them. You can't go to another planet because they already got that sold up too. So where are you running to? It's not what you're running from. And the code says don't fight, don't 3 F's, don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. Talking about solutions now. That's the only solution you have, black person. But some black people have said, well, they'll kill you anyway. Well, they kill animals anyway. So what? You got to find out what kind of world you're in. If you're black, if you have black skin, it's not like you think it is. Nowhere close. You're an animal. Even when people pet you and smile in your face and put their arms around you and even kiss you and get in bed with you, you're still an animal. I'm in bed with an animal. When you see yourself in the eyes of the white supremacists, which is the only government on the planet Earth in 2022, then you can expect what will happen. But black people say, well, I don't look at myself as an animal. You better when you're around white people. That's what they see. They don't see you as a human being. You are an animal, a nice animal, a belligerent animal. You know, animals have personalities. You know, you might have a dog if you're black. I mean, so look at your dog and say, now, there's an old saying among white people, and that is, white man first, dog next, and the N-word last.
Mm-hmm.
Every black person on the planet, when you wake up in the morning and go to bed at night, should see yourself in that frame of reference, whether you like it or not, because that's the way it is.
Okay, that's the way it is. Okay, let me make this announcement, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller and myself, I was just told, and to all the callers, we're getting ready, this episode is getting ready to end. So what we have to do, you too, Mr. Fuller, as myself, we have to call back in to the radio, to the internet, and also on the blog talk to be reconnected with the show, because somehow it got messed up for 15-minute program, and we have a 2-hour window. It's getting ready to end now, so Mr. Fuller, you and I both have to hang up and then call back in. Callers, you have to do the same thing and then log back in to Blog Talk Radio to get the program again. So everybody on hold and all the people in the chat room, you're going to have to do it all over again. So I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to hang up, and then I'm going to call back in, and then you get back on Blog Talk, and we'll do it all over again. All right, thank you. So let's do it right now.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time,
All righty. Thank you for bearing with us. We had some technical... Yeah, we're back on B-Sam. Justice Warrior, we had some technical difficulties, which I tried to explain in the first part of the show. But we're back on. Now, I am a little concerned because my clock is reading another 15 minutes, but I don't think that's the case here. But anyway, we'll go on. This is going to be part 2 of that. If you did not hear part 1, usually that's when Mr. Fuller has the thoughts and expressions. That is still up, so you can get that. This is part 2, at least according to what is on my screen here. So we will continue here. And thank you all. Chatters, I think you're okay. Think you are okay. If not, just log back on to Blog Talk Radio. You know what to do. Blog Talk Radio, and then the Produced Justice show, and then of course the chat room, and then you'll be back on. Now, I'm looking at my screen, so we'll see. Wait a minute, see what's happening here. It looks like all that's in there. Constructive action items. Give me something so that I know you're still on. And while we're doing that, let's go to Cleo in Houston. Let me see if I can get you there, Cleo. Let's see here. Okay, Cleo, you're on with Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just a minute, Cleo. Thank you, Constructive Action Item. Okay, you're back. Okay, go ahead, Cleo. Thank you.
Long live NFJ and forever live Logic. Thank you, Mr. Bobby, for utilizing your gifts, talents, and abilities in partnership with Mr. NFJ in the weekly production of this very important life work. Thank you also to Moon Pie, Robert, Sharon, and the entire CRTS and Produce Justice team. I have a quick VGQ followed by a quick question for Mr. NFJ. My VGQ is the one-paragraph analysis of racism, white supremacy as defined. Give me a second.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. That's all right.
Calling me in, but I'm getting right back to it. Okay.
Okay.
My VGQ is the one-paragraph analysis of racism, white supremacy, as defined by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. It is as follows. Racism, white supremacy, is a local and global power system and dynamic structured and maintained by persons who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined, which consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thoughts, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on planet Earth, a planet upon which the vast and overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, meaning black, brown, red, and yellow, by white-skinned people, and all of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to their genetically recessive white-skinned people. Now, my question this morning for Mr. Fuller is, considering the system of white supremacy, do you suspect a connection between the harm done to non-white people in the mass shooting of blacks in a grocery store in a predominantly black residential area in Buffalo, New York, and the mass shooting of Hispanics in an elementary school in a predominantly Hispanic residential area in Vivaldi, Texas, and the recent gun reform bill passed by President Biden, all in the same year of 2022. Thank you.
There's always a connection to everything in the universe. So the dominant factor, according to logic, compensatory logic, and counter-racist logic, is that you have a lot of death worship in the system of white supremacy, which is the world government, the worship of death. Most books that are printed every year are about death-making, the making of death by whom? By people against other people. Most books, murder mysteries, go in any bookstore or turn on the television set right now and flip channels. And here, I mean, nonstop, 24 hours a day. Most television programs, I think, or at least half, are about people killing people. Either on battlefields or, murder mystery, who done it? And you look at a book and it says The Headless Corpse, and you'll see something going way back to in ancient days. I mean, well, not really ancient, but books that are written way before, the books that are written now, when you pick them up and you walk in any bookstore, say for instance, and you have a book by maybe somebody named Graham Greene, and you look at it and it's got a title on it that says The Body in the Attic. Or you can go back and you'll find a detective named Sherlock Holmes, and it's all about creeping around trying to find out who killed whom. And then you have other books about what? War. You have movies all day long. Top Gun. All right? Top Gun. And the movie, even when it's not about killing, will be called a blockbuster. Now, where did the term blockbuster come from? It came from World War II, I think. That's where it originated, so-called World War II. We're still in a world war.
Yes.
The only one that really counts, the war about white supremacy against the non-white people of the planet. So all of it is connected, like the caller asked. Is there a connection? Oh, yes. Violence. Worship violence. And particularly in the system of white supremacy, find some non-white people and commit violence against them, and not only that, teach them methodically to walk around all day thinking about doing nothing but doing violence themselves. And here in the northwestern hemisphere and other parts of the world, many people with black skins, huge numbers of them, are just walking around thinking about, I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to definitely kill somebody that looks like me. Hey, too much time has passed. It's time for me to do some more killing of somebody that looks just like my brother or like my mother or like that no good father that left me. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill as many of them as I can. Black people are systematically taught that in the system of white supremacy. And white people are taught that. Somebody ought to kill them, even if I don't. Now, we will teach them to kill each other, and that will take a lot of burden and anxiety off of us. But every now and then we like to kill a few of them ourselves just to keep in practice. And that's the kind of world we're in. That's the only kind of world we're in. You can't name any other world that is as significant as that. Killing, killing, killing. Kill people in general, but definitely kill people of color. Everybody should be in on that, and everybody should appreciate that. That's the system of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All righty. Thank you, Cleo from Houston. This question here, Mr. Fuller, from LaSherion, says, Dear Mr. Fuller, good morning. Can a white person make a choice to be white, a white supremacist, unconsciously?
Unconsciously?
Yeah, that's the word that
yeah, a lot of people use that term. I never use that term because I don't know what it means. I simply don't know what it means. People have never explained to me what is conscious and what is unconscious. I think of a person being unconscious as being not being able to think anything because they're unconscious. When the medics show up after an auto accident, they say that, for example, we found the patient, the person who we came to rescue from that dire situation that they were in after a car wreck, unconscious. So we made the person conscious. So the person opened their eyes and started mumbling something and yelling out that they were in pain, and we knew that the person was conscious, and we rushed them to the hospital and tried to take care of the person. That's but the person was unconscious, meaning they weren't responding to anything. We were shaking their arms and whatnot, trying to talk to them, and trying to find out what the injuries were. And we couldn't see anything, any blood or anything like that. It was a minor accident, but the person bumped their head and appeared to be unconscious. We found the person unconscious because the person was not aware of anything going on. But when the person became conscious, the person was aware of what was going on. Mm-hmm. And that's how I look at it. I never understood this stuff, but in what they call psychiatry and whatnot, you got all kind of terms that don't fit, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. What you call that profession. A lot of terms do not fit anything. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of words just to load up the books. That's what I think it is, like in medicine, period. I think a whole lot of terms are completely unnecessary. They should just talk in plain language, because I have been told, I don't know how true this is, when the medical profession first became organized, it was supposed to be like a secret society, like the Freemasons. And they're supposed to use terms that nobody understood, not simple terms. And I think that's the legacy of early medicine, if what is said about early medicine is true. Hello? Have I been cut off? Hello?
Mr. Fuller, are you there? Everybody, you know what? As constructive actions item has said, we are having a tremendous glitch, and Mr. Fuller is not on the line right now. However,
I'm here now.
Oh, good. Okay, listen, Robert and the crew has just told me that at 10 o'clock, which is going to be 15 minutes, the same thing is happening again. We're going to have to, you and I are going to have to call back in. Everybody that's online is going to have to terminate the phone call and call back in. As constructive action items has said, I think that the usual suspects seem to be in place. But I remember something you said, Mr. Fuller, expect the worst and hope for the best. Well, this is one of these times because we never have had this particular problem before, but we're having it right now. But being codified, we just work ourselves through it. So when we're cut off again, we'll just do it.
It's a part of the war.
Back. Yeah, come back. Yeah, it's part of the war. We just understand that, and we'll just do it again because a lot of people that are practicing living codified know that these things are going to happen. One of the Gmailers said that your work is so important that people that are in particular areas do not want it to get out, but it's still getting out anyway, even all around the world. So, again, those of you who are on the air at 10 o'clock, I was told that whatever this glitch was is going to cut us off, but you have to call back into that same number. Mr. Fuller and myself will do the same thing. And I think the same thing might be done on those that are in the chat room, as far as I know. Yeah. And somebody just asked, is this program going to continue today? Yes, it is. We are going to continue. This is not going to stop it. You expect this in war. Things happen. You expect this in war. Mr. Fuller, as we are preparing for this, and you've been doing this, can you explain to people some of the tactics that the racists use in warfare against the truth?
Well, for one thing, you don't hear in regular radio, for the most part, except this on one station, the Carl Nelson Show, provided by Dr. Kathy Hughes on one of her stations. Every now and then, once a month or so, I am given some time. But just in regular conversations, you can turn on television and hear hours and hours, and I've been talking for years. You never hear anything mentioned about Neely Fuller's book. You'll hear all kind of books being advertised, and mostly they watch people very closely who are in the institutions, educational institutions, and make sure that they don't go too far off the rails, you might say, that are set by the white supremacists, because they're in the traditional educational institutions. That includes all the black studies programs. You're not going to hear anything about the United Independent Compensatory Code, period, by anybody, by any black professors or white ones. You're not going to hear it, because that'll be the tip of an iceberg to opening up some, well, I would say, some substantially different views of how to look at, first of all, this race problem. Now, you do hear some people who come pretty close to it, like this lady with the critical race theory, and that's why everybody's in such all up in arms. Well, you've had black professors for years talking about race and race and race, but this particular lady said, well, what about some fresh looks? And I keep forgetting her name. I think her name is Mrs. Jones or something.
Yeah. I was just getting ready to Google. Yeah.
Yes, and they say that she came up.
Nicole something.
Yes, she's gone further. You know, she just doesn't keep rehashing what has already been said dozens and dozens of times, all down through the years. But that she says it's an old problem. but let's use some new terms and a new way of looking at things. I mean, put another frame of reference on it all together. And that's what the code does. See, and people call it under the umbrella of critical race theory, and we don't want none of that. We don't want any fresh views, any research type thing where you go over what you have been going over, but you look at it with a different set of eyes, like scientists always do, or seek to do. And that's what the white supremacists said. No, freeze frame it. Use the same kind of terms we issue you to use. I mean, and don't emphasize so much this white supremacy thing. Rather than say the system of white supremacy, say racism and white supremacy.
Yeah.
So it will tell you, and you hear professors using that over and over again. I've had interviewers interview me over and over again, and the interviewers down through the years have always said, well, Mr. Fuller, what about this racism and this white supremacy? They will say racism and white supremacy. And even after I keep saying racism is white supremacy.
Is white supremacy, yes.
And white supremacy is racism. You never separate those two words. You don't say racism and white supremacy. What other type of racism is there? You can't have two supremes. And I've said this on there many times, except in a singing group. I mean, you can have two, you have a singing group, Diana Ross and the Supremes. So that's more than two, or more than one, rather. And you can have that in a singing group, or when you talk about racism, and you look around for the people who practice racism, they're white supremacists. You say, well, what about the black supremacists? I've run into a lot of black people who say black people are supreme because they're genetically supreme. I say, yeah, but that's not where the problem is. The problem is who is supreme based on race. And it has to be, first of all, a white person. Because you can't have white supremacy and black supremacy on the same planet at the same time. That's not logical. It's not scientific at all. Nowhere near being scientific. You can't have, when you say you got a heavyweight champion of the world, that's the heavyweight champion of the world. You can't have two heavyweight champions at the same time.
Right. Yeah, her name is Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so I hope people get that point. And look out for new terms all the time. They keep cropping up.
Yeah, her name is Nicole Hannah Jones. She wrote that book, on the critical race theory. And my people, or people that listen to the program, what is happening to us in a codified manner is we have to take it as an object lesson. We are under attack, but in a codified manner. We just can't talk about it. We have to be about it, live about it. So this is why we go to the other way. We continue on even while we are under attack with the program jumping in and out. See, this is an object lesson, what to do when things happen. And this is what we're going to do. I understand that in about 6 minutes we're going to have to do it all over again. That's okay, because we're still going to keep on going. That is okay. Now, Mr. Fuller and I have been talking for just a minute. Let me see if I can briefly get you in, Corey, before we disconnect Corey from Milwaukee. Let me see, Corey. Milwaukee, yes. Go ahead, Corey.
Greetings, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, I've been making compensatory requests for help in the area of medicine, and I keep meeting the same, the usual suspects are doing it, giving me the same response, saying I don't qualify. Is it codified for me to continue to appeal their negative responses that I receive from the so-called higher levels of so-called government? And should I use the word guide and ask them to do their duty and take this as an opportunity to ask for help as a victim of racism in producing justice, basically use this situation to keep making my requests?
Okay, Mr. Fuller, you got about 3 minutes to answer before we have to disconnect, so go ahead. Thank you, Corey.
If I understand the question, you use the code all the time. All the time. There's no, why stop doing something until you're at gunpoint told that if you don't stop doing it, you're going to die or you're going to be seriously harmed. So as long as no one is threatening you with death or serious bodily harm or quote-unquote economic harm or educational harm, or they just cut you off or ignore you and whatnot, you just keep plugging along. Why? Because we're supposed to be replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. And justice is always in fashion. It's never been tried seriously by anybody in recorded history. And what is justice? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that's all over the planet. Applies to everybody in every area of activity 24/7. Guarantee that no person is mistreated and guarantee that the person that needs help the most in every setting gets the most constructive help. And you don't stop doing that. You wake up in the morning and go to bed at night with that in mind. And, and somebody says you need to stop doing it, then you say, why? And listen to the answers that you get. Stop trying to practice justice, trying to stop putting justice into operation and replace all these other systems of interactions between people with justice, because none of the other systems are working in a way that they should in any area of activity, principally the system of white supremacy. You're not getting justice in the system of white supremacy. Nobody's producing it. People talk about it. Nobody's making a move, seriously, to produce it. Never been produced by anybody in recorded history.
Never. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Corey, for your question. Stay codified, no matter what. Stay on it. Whatever you have to do to get the results that you want, stay on it. Stay codified. All of us have to stay codified, regardless of whatever they throw at us, like they're getting ready to do now in about a minute and 30 seconds. We have to. You have to call it. Mr. Fuller and I will have to call in again the third time. That's okay. 4 times, 5 times, that's okay. We're still going to keep going. And you'll have to do the same. You'll have to terminate your phone call or however you're on and call back in or reconnect to the site on Blog Talk under the new whatever that is. Just reconnect with that. I got to do that too so I can get you guys. But that's okay, because they expect us to quit or give up or talk about each other and all that stuff. That's okay. That's okay. We just keep on doing it. I'm doing it because we have I'm looking at my clock here. I got a minute to do this. But you have to expect this. You have to expect that you are going to be attacked, either seen or unseen, as this show is being attacked today, as you can see. But the object lesson is we ain't quitting. Don't like it, but we ain't quitting. We're going to keep on doing, no matter what smoke screens they throw. reconnect. Okay. Here we go. All righty. We'll do it.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Oh, okay. Thank you for those, and welcome back to the CRCS, the Counter Racist Code Show. As you can see, we've been having some technical difficulties, but we're trying to work through those. Some have decided that they will catch us next week, which you can. Sorry to see you go. But there are some that are going to stay. So you know the procedure. Call this number, 516-453-9921, and make sure that you give the call screener your name so that I can properly give you the introduction. Because they ain't stopping us. That's all there is to it. I ain't mad. I ain't upset. I expect this kind of stuff to happen. I'm still trying to live codified as much as I can. But anyway, make sure you give the call screener your name, and so that I can properly give you an introduction, like Glenda has done. Thank you, Glenda. You've done that. Yeah, you do that. Let's see here. And I think the same for the people in the chat room, because it looks like the number has gone down, but that's okay. First, okay, Darnell, thank you. Now, if you're a first-time caller, make sure you tell the call screener that, so that we can expedite you in an area so that your call can be heard. If you're online, you will be heard. Now, sometimes while you're speaking, sometimes I'm having conversation with Robert or Moon Pie or the lovely Sharon. Yeah, I can see her smiling now about some stuff that's going on, and I'm wondering how much time do we have left, because I have a clock here, a countdown clock, and it's reading a certain number. So Robert will let me know how long the program is going to be. If you missed the first hour, it's up there. I think it's called Part 1. It's up there where Mr. Fuller does the usual thoughts and expressions on the mind of Neely Fuller Jr. So you might want to catch this. I think this is Part 2. Maybe could be Part 3. But this is on also. So make sure that you do that. Okay, I see Dollar Bill is back. Okay. I tell you what, I'm going to take a phone call here. Oh yeah, I forgot this. I beg your pardon. For the chat room, go to Blog Talk Radio, and then you want to make sure that you go to programs and hit the Produce Justice show. Hit that, and then the chat room will come up, and you're able to get into the chat room and see if we can get those numbers back up. Darnell, I'm going to try to see if we can get you, or did we already do it? Let me see here. Darnell, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Go ahead, Darnell.
Well, this one is a VGQ. It's not a question.
Okay.
The victims of white supremacy should always know 3 things. They should know who they are, which is victims of white supremacy. They should know where they are, which is in the system of white supremacy, and they should know what time it is. And the time is to reduce justice. Mr. Bobby, can I stay online, please?
Yes, sir. Let me see if I can get you in. Hopefully you won't be disconnected. Let me see here. Okay, Darnell, thank you for your call. Okay, I think I got you in here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, we're going to continue in New York. We got some holler from the dollar. That's Dollar Bill. All right, Dollar Bill, get ready. Give it to me. Go ahead, Dollar Bill. You are on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby, and good morning, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you know what? I'm so glad to be out of school because now I can attend school myself on Tuesdays at 9 till 11 on the show. And I just want to say that, this Sovereign, you brought up a lot of good things this morning, even though we were interrupted, and I think that is one of the most powerful things that I have learned from Mr. Fuller is to expect things to go wrong when you are a person who is going through this system of racism, white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
I just want to put that out there. And I wanted to say that, you know, he said something about this morning about solutions. And I felt that a main solution of what I think we should do is start boycotting again. That breadbasket movement was a big thing, and I think we need to move towards those things of boycotting these systems that are really using our money to really just hurt us continuously. And we should be going, another solution, we should be going after that $20 trillion debt that is owed to ABOS or the FBAs, whatever they want to call themselves, with specifics to help them get out of this rut that they're in. Mm-hmm. My question, another thing I wanted to say was unconscious versus conscious. Mr. Fuller, I said to myself, well, I had to look that word up. And conscious just means that you are know a fact. You know something. And I think that's the way people are using it. And unconscious just means the opposite of that you're unaware of that you're doing something or that you don't know. So I just wanted to throw that in there. My question. I wanted to know, why do so many people, why do they always want to dismiss this conversation of racism? And I wanted to get your feel on that because they always seem to go into victim mode, or they'll say they'll get angry, they don't want to talk about it. Even our own people, they seem to have been brainwashed in somehow, even though with a lot of great information out there, like the compensatory code book, or Mr. Jeff Robinson's, just his latest movie, about why is it that they're always trying to deflect and get away from talking about this important issue.
Oh, okay. All righty. All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Fuller?
All problems are solved, and I like to emphasize all. A and big neon lights, glaring paint, or whatever you want to say it. Emphasize all. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So if a person, for example, says they don't want to talk about racism, then you ask a logical question. And that question is, sir, ma'am, what do you want to talk about? And then you go from there, because after that first question, you probably have 1,000 other questions until you do what? Until you solve the problem. But all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So you should never get frustrated, because the minute that you can't communicate with a person or think that you can't, and you start getting nervous about where the conversation is going, just go into the question and answer mode. It's real simple. That's code. That's rock solid code. You don't turn loose to that. You ask the logical question. What do you want to talk about? People are always willing to talk about what they want to talk about. And once you start that, it's going to all lead to the race issue anyway. You will find this out just by doing it. Just keep asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to make statements. Just move on to the next question. It'll take everybody right where they should be, whether they want to go or not, if they're going to have a conversation at all. And if you don't believe it, try it. That's code.
That's
but
code.
You've got to remember to do it. Don't start arguing with people saying, look, I want to talk to you about racism, and you don't want to talk about it, and that's what I want to talk about. It's not what you want to talk about, but it is what you want to talk about. If you want to talk about it to a person that don't want to talk about it. So what's the procedure for slicing right through all of that? what do you want to talk about? And the person say, well, I want to talk about my job situation. That's what I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's the hook right there. And you can say that. You can tell them that's what you're doing. It's not sneaking up on anybody. You can say, hey, I'm going the codified route. The codified route says that if you don't want to talk about race, what I'm supposed to do is immediately ask you, what do you want to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
And talk about what you want to talk about. The code requires that. How can I talk to a person about something that they don't want to talk about, not interested in talking about, and can't stand you talking about it and trying to get away from you, and you grabbing them by the sleeve saying, you're going to listen to me? Now, that's coercion. The code doesn't do that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just because you want to talk about something, you're going to make somebody else listen to you talk about something that they don't want to talk about? The codified procedure is no. You go into the question mode every time. And the logical question is, if you don't want to talk about race, sir or ma'am, and you can do this in a classroom, you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about CRT. What do you want to talk about?
What do you want to talk about? Yes,
because people are always willing to talk about what they want to talk about.
Okay.
But through that process of questions and answers, it will lead to talking about the race issue anyway, because the race issue is the dominant subject on the planet. But you will only discover this. I'm talking about black people who really believe in being against racism. What is the way of going about doing it? The codified procedure is a procedure that will always work. And that codified procedure is questions and answers.
Questions and answers.
It will always take everybody right where they need to be, even when they don't want to go there.
All righty. Thank you,
Dollar Bill. If you don't believe it, try it.
All righty. Thank you, Dollar Bill. Thank you so much. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here on Blog Talk Radio and also at ProduceJustice.com. We've had some technical difficulties, but it looks like we may have them worked out because they're trying to stop us, but it's not going to happen. Not going to happen, Captain. All right, let's go to Virginia, and we have Glenda. Glenda, good morning, and you are on with Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. My question this morning is as follows. Mr. Fuller, do you think white people need black people more, or do black people need white people more? And I'll stay on the line for the answer. Thank you.
Okay.
It's about the same, apparently, according to the evidence. White people need black people in order to have white supremacy. White people are almost at a loss for something to do. I mean, just going places and going, white people buy guns. Why do they keep stacking up guns? Just keep crowding them in, trying to find space for the guns. I mean, got so many guns inside the house, now they got to put them all in the garage. And might have to build another garage, and then got some in storage. And for what? Because they just love to look at guns. They can do that looking at them in a magazine. They got gun magazines. I used to buy them myself. Okay? So why all the guns? Well, to go hunting. Well, you don't go hunting with all those assault rifles, telescopic sights and all like that. And you don't go hunting for nothing, ever. Most people don't go hunting. Most white people don't hunt. Okay? So, you don't keep buying stuff. Well, it's just an idea. It might be an uprising by these black people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, see, that's what it's all about in the system of white supremacy. It's deeply embedded. Yeah, well, you got about 15 guns now. How many do you need? Well, they got a couple of new ones out that I haven't looked at. I say, well, you got several guns there. You bought them, and you don't even go out and test fire them or nothing. You don't even go shooting at targets. Well, I kind of like the style of it. Look at it. It's a beautiful object to look at. Okay. Well, they got different types, and this is for duck hunting. I mean, I got a shotgun here and whatnot. Yeah, but I ain't going hunting for no ducks. But well, what do you buy a duck gun for? Well, it's a 12 gauge, and that'll kill more than ducks. So I just kind of like to have one, So put that up on the rack. 40 guns in the garage, all right, or in the basement somewhere. All right, beautiful. Keep them polished up. Make sure they don't get wet, so they get rusty. And go and look at television and watch people using guns all the time. And if you happen to look out your window and you see somebody black jogging, you just might decide, hey, go get the pickup truck, all right? See what he's up to. He keeps jogging past my window. I mean, he's casing the joint. And we'll confront him. Well, we ain't going to confront him without our guns. So take a couple of guns. Fill the truck up with them, Might have to hand them out to somebody that's going to, join us looking out as a licensed militia. Mm-hmm. Okay? Second Amendment in the Northwestern Hemisphere. And check out this black person jogging through my neighborhood. My neighborhood. Well, he can jog in his own neighborhood. He ain't got no business over here jogging. He knows that. I mean, didn't his grandpappy tell him anything at all? See,
yeah.
That's the mentality in the system of white supremacy. So in answer to the question, yes, everything is geared toward that. And they need us for that. You were talking about what their needs are. You can't have, you got a gun, you got to have a target. And most targets, even when they started out, were what? Black. When the person went over to the shopping center. I mean, shopping center, I don't know if that one had one or not. I don't think it did, because they got this food scarcity thing. Mm-hmm. Shopping scarcity thing. But when there were Hispanics being gunned down, people who are labeled Hispanic, who are brown people, many of them are labeled as white. That helps the system of white supremacy. But a huge number are considered brown people. They speak Spanish language, but they are brown-skinned people. And from what I understand, there was a Target store, a store called Target, with a big target on the side of the store, on the wall. And people were being made targets right there with that big target on the wall. And the original targets on firing ranges, and I've been on a bunch of them, were black. The round circle, and then sometimes they were in the form of a person, and they were black.
And they were black,
that's sending a message. Now, later on, they changed some of them to green. I've been on firing ranges myself where the targets were green. But the basic target is black. The bullseye, they call it, is black.
Yes.
All right?
Okay.
Even though when you sight down the barrel of a rifle or a pistol, it just makes it harder to see. It would make more sense for the bullseye to be white. And then against a black gun, all right, you'd have a better sighting. But that doesn't work good for the system of white supremacy psyche.
Yeah.
Stop and think, folks. Everything in the system of white supremacy is geared toward glorifying white supremacy. Everything, even when it looks like it's something else.
Okay. The things that Mr. Fuller is talking about, you can get from his book, The United Independent Compensatory Code Concept.
System concept.
Yeah, system concept, excuse me. Also referred to as the code, many people have said. And you can get that book by going to producejustice.com. Or right now, you can also go to Amazon.com in order to book and make sure that you mention something about Mr. Fuller, and there's something that's happening positive for the program when you do that. So make sure that you do that. Thank you, Glenda. Thank you very much for your call. Don't be a stranger, Glenda. Okay, let's go down. Look at that, Yo Jeter and Helen B. Yeah, but right now we're going to go down to Dallas. Here we go. Get ready, Ray. Ray, come on, Ray, bring it. Here we go. You're on with Mr. Fuller.
Peaceful greetings, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to stay on the line.
Okay.
Yes. Mr. Fuller, since the system of white supremacy has demonstrated through word and deed that they will not end peacefully, at what point is it correct for non-white victims globally to exercise immediate power from their particular vantage point on the planet?
Well, if I understand the question, the last part of the question is the power that black people have. We have subordinate power, but we use it to the hilt by codifying everything that we do. And what is a code for? It's to produce a constructive result in everything that you do and everything that you say within the framework of counter-racist science. That is the guide. That's what code means. Everything that you think, say, and do is designed to produce a constructive result rather than a non-constructive result. Now, getting rid of white supremacy is a constructive result of a code. So that's why I wrote a code book. So it's real simple. You just open the book and try to find something that applies to something that's going on in your economic situation, in your educational situation, when you get ready to entertain yourself, if you're black, how you go about doing it and how you go about not doing it. Lots of things you do, lots of things that black people do as entertainment needs to stop. See, it's just doing and not doing, saying and not saying. Everything is about doing and saying. You're either saying something or doing something or a combination of both. Even when you're sleeping, you're doing something. What is it you're doing? You're sleeping. So the code says it's a way to go about doing sleeping. It's the best way and it's the worst way. If you're eating, the code says something about eating. You eat correctly or non-correctly. So you choose things to put into your body that will have what? A constructive effect. Not like the whole bunch of stuff that we sometimes glorify as soul food. It's soul food, all right, because that's what you're going to be. You're going to stop being a body and be a soul. Because you're going to be dead. And many of us are lying in hospitals right now, heading toward death on account of what? What we eat. Right this minute. And they'll testify that this is true. The people who are lying in hospitals, and many a black person is right now, and the doctor says the person is dying of what? Not just some fancy terms that they use in medicine, but when you say it in just what you call plain English, if you speak English or in whatever language, they'll say you're dying from what you've been eating. It was killing you. Greasy barbecue, a whole bunch Oh, boy, yeah, with the correct sauce on it. First of all, you're eating a dead animal, all right? Look at it like that. It's not phrased like that if you're eating barbecue. And a dead animal without all that sauce on it, you let it lie there for a while dead, and you don't want to eat no part of it because it's decayed. You don't smell it, but you'll begin to smell it, and when you smell it, anything that's dead, a dead person. You know, detectives sometimes trying to find a dead body, which they're always doing. You know, that's a part of our culture. Most of the dead bodies caused by other people who want to see dead bodies. We saw that happen yesterday again, and it's happening now. And yesterday, for the 4th of July, a lot of black people walking around with guns. Wasn't just shooting up in the air, they were shooting other black people. It's a good time to do it, 4th of July. I mean, why? Because everything sounds like a gun on the 4th of July. Good time for everybody who got a beef with somebody to look them up and shoot them. And that'll be happening. And just by me saying that, that's giving some people ideas right there, because they got the guns already. They say, yeah, I'll just wait until next July, you know. I can shoot him right there on the street. Nobody even notices. Why? Because fireworks are going off all over the place.
You're right. Correct.
But you can also think about, I ain't doing nothing like that. Yeah, I got a beef with that guy. But what does the code say about that? It says that I break contact. You minimize contact. You minimize conflict by minimizing contact. And you should do that anyway. The only time you should contact any person is when you have something constructive to say or do. And when the constructive part stops, that's the time for you to break contact. Say, okay, man, I'll see you. I'll see you next time. Well, when is next time? Well, when we got something constructive to talk about. Of course, right now we ain't talking about nothing constructive.
All righty. Yo, Gina and Helen B. is going to be on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. And we thank you for your listenership, and we thank you for your indulgence in us with the problems that we had this morning, but we thank you for your faithfulness and for your questions. Thank you very much. To get in contact with the show in our remaining moments, all you have to do is call 516-453-9921 and press the number 1 button if you have a question or a quick VGQ. If you are a new caller, give the call screener your name so that I can get you up here and you can ask your question. You don't have to be scared. This is good. This is all good. You can also Gmail me at the show at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY @gmail.com. Now it won't be read today, but I will let you know that I got it, and when I do read it, I will also let you know, as I've done with at least one this morning through all this stuff that we had to do. You can also get into the chat room. Just go to blogtalkradio.com, and then you want to get the Produce Justice Show and programs and the Produce Justice Show. And then once you get that, then the icon for the chat room will come up, and you're able to get in there and get in with the chat. And I want to thank you, chatters, for hanging in there with all that we have been through this morning. You have been codified, and you're working on it, and I'm very glad. Before we continue, Robert, I need for you to let me know how many minutes we have so I can let Mr. Fuller know what's going on. I think that is it. Oh, don't forget, if you missed part 1, and I guess it's labeled part 1, it's only about 15 to 17 minutes because of the technical problems that we've had this morning. You can pick that up. This is either part 2 or part 3. It's just what we had to deal with this morning. And I'd like to thank the technical team for working through that situation so that this show can be heard in its entirety. So thank you for that. Okay, Ray, I'm going to keep you online, and we're going to go down to I guess it's the Palmetto State. I don't know. At least that's what I heard. But Yo Jeter is on there. Get ready, Yo Jeter. Let me get you in here. Okay. I think, there you go. Yo Jeter, good morning.
Great rising, Mr. Bobby. Great rising, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just received a compensatory code book last week. It was my first time calling.
Oh, good.
And delivery is running smooth. I have a VGQ.
Yes, sir.
In the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, you think your role is to take on the traits of your oppressor, but your role is to destroy him. And a quick question, Mr. Fuller. The glorification and the joy that you say white supremacy received from mistreating black people, is it a stalled hate? I'd like to stay on the line.
Okay.
I didn't get that question.
Okay, now what was your question, Yo Jeter?
The joy and the gratification, is it more so installed hate over joy and gratification?
Okay. Ms. Fuller?
Well, I think I heard the question, but I don't understand what I heard.
Okay. Yo Jeter, could you say it a little slowly there so that Mr. Fuller
can... It said that white supremacists receive joy and gratification and comfort in mistreating black people. It is more so of an installed hate than joy and gratification.
Okay. Ms. Fuller?
Well, if I understand what the question is, and I think I understand part of it anyway, that all creatures want 3 things. They want fun, glory, and material comfort. That's whether you're talking about people or birds or bears or parakeets. All creatures want 3 things: fun, glory, and material comfort. Now, the fun might be anything that they enjoy. The glory is something that they also enjoy, but glory means what? You attract the attention of other people. That's glory. People need that. And you want to be outstanding for something. You want to be what they call an active shooter, you get glory because you're going to get attention. My daddy never paid attention to me. My mother, she was working hard and all like that, and she never paid me attention. I came from a family of 16 people, all right? Everybody shouting and cussing all day, okay? But nobody paying me no attention. Well, when I get that gun and get up on a rooftop and whatnot, somebody going to know who I am. And they're going to be paying me attention. They're going to be running behind me, trying to find out who I am after I do what I'm going to do, because I'm going to get somebody's attention. That's glory. People start wars. Presidents start wars. Emperors start wars, saying, nobody's paying me no attention. I'm a president of a country. But nobody even knows about my country being on the map. But after I go over there and start a ruckus in that other person's living room, they're going to know who I am. And my country and me, as the leader of my country, will be all over the news tomorrow. And everybody will be looking at the map trying to find out who I am. So in answer to the question, those 3 things all creatures want. So the white supremacists want it through the system of white supremacy. Fun, glory, and material comfort. They get
a whole lot of all three of those things from practicing racism. That's why they are racist, and they don't want to turn loose to it, because it is so profitable. You get more out of the system of white supremacy than anybody has ever in all of recorded history got out of any other system. It's the most profitable system for the people who practice it than any other system of government ever thought up. So-called communism, capitalism, whatever that means, and whatever communism means, socialism, all these different isms, all the religions put together don't match what a white supremacist get from practicing white supremacy. All of them put together will not bring in as much profit in the form of fun, glory, and material comfort as just that one thing, dominating and mistreating people based on color, will bring you more fun, more glory, and more material comfort than all the other systems combined. That's why it is so hard for a white person to say, well, let's just get rid of racism and replace it with something other than racism. It's hard. They look at what racism does. It brings in so much. There's some glitches, and it makes you feel bad about doing some things and all like that. But, boy, the profits are enormous when it comes to the fun, glory, and material comfort.
All righty. Okay, Yojita, I'm going to keep you on the line, and I hope everybody heard that. And I really hope that those with discernment heard exactly what Mr. Fuller just said. Discernment. It's prophetic. Discernment. Helen B. Man, it's been a long time. Get ready, Helen B. From New York. Here we go. Go ahead, Helen B.
Greetings. What is the codified way to respond when someone misquotes your words or from the book, whether they're white or non-white?
You just respond with the codified way and say that they have misinterpreted what is written. The languages can sometimes be confusing, but sometimes people will take material and put a spin on it that was not the intention of the writer. People do this all the time. So the way to correct something that's non-correct, these are the categories, correct and non-correct, is to correct what's non-correct. Truth is better than falsehood. So when you find something that's false, you point it out. This is false. This is false. And so when you find something that's false, then what's the logical procedure? Find what is true. So I have misquoted people or said something, quoted something rather, and put somebody else's name on it that I didn't intend to put on it. So that is sending out false information, and that is always deadly. If Thomas Paine said something, and I said Thomas Jefferson said it, that's two different people. That's false. You don't spread false information. Put the correct label on the correct can. You don't put chicken noodle soup in a can that says tomato. That's two different things altogether. No matter how pretty the sign is or the label is, it's giving out false information. You bring it home and you sit down and say, I'm going to have a fine meal of chicken noodle soup. I love it. got tomato soup. Now, that's a problem. So you're making problems when you do that, and particularly when you do it deliberately. And so stop doing it. Just don't do it. Make sure you do what you should do, and that's reveal truth from A to Z, not up until aura, and then load it up, the rest of it, to alphabet, up with a bunch of falsehood. That causes what? Disappointment and confusion. And confusion is something that is anti-code altogether.
Mm-hmm.
You're never supposed to have confusion about anything, ever. That's not supposed to happen. That's code.
Okay. All righty, Helen B., thank you. I missed you online today, or rather in the chat room, but thank you very much, and for being such a loyal listener. Going out to California, Santa Cruz. Used to be a first-time caller, but he's not anymore. And we thank you for listening. Charles, get ready. You are now on with Mr. Fuller. All right, Charles, let's have it.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I'm glad to be able to speak with you guys again. I did have one question this morning. My question is, would black people be able to handle not being in a system of white supremacy? And the reason I ask that is because we don't produce anything to the world, as to say airplanes, cars, any kind of industry. We don't own coal mines. We're not producers. And would we be able to sustain ourselves and handle ourselves if we wasn't in this system? And is that why this system has overcome and overtaken us? Are we less intelligent than the white race, and is that why we're in this position? I know that's two questions, I'm sorry, but yes, could you maybe answer some of that for me, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles. Okay.
We need, and I didn't finish answer the lady that called in previously. I told her about white people needed black people. Black people need white people. We don't know anything about how to get anything done that we don't learn from them. Now, a lot of black people, particularly people in what you call academia, like to talk about, well, 10,000 years ago, we ruled the world. And you can say that, and it might be true. It might be even 600 years ago. I mean, black people were the brainiest people ever. Black people taught everybody everything. It wasn't nothing that black people didn't know about the entire universe. Black people know the names of all the planets, zillions of them. You know, I mean, hey, when you get on that roll, you can just roll around in that like forever. You can say, you know what? Black people are not no inferior people. We're the greatest thing that the Creator ever made. In fact, we created the Creator. You know, we can say that. And for what purpose? So we can feel good, okay? And for another reason, we don't have to do nothing. Just roll around all day talking about black people know everything. And ain't nothing to pick out any black person on the street, and it ain't nothing that black person don't know about everything. I mean, we are the smartest people that ever was and ever will be. It ain't going to ever be anybody smarter than us. We can say that. And for what reason? The reason we usually say that, for those who say it, and that's what? To feel good. Yeah, you can get a good high off of that. That's great cocaine. But up against white supremacy, it ain't worth 2 cents, because that's what it's proven to be. Everything that black people has done, I mean, it's been a real struggle just to get a sandwich at a lunch counter. never join that train. Once I started hearing it in the 1960s, I said, I'm not with that at all. I'm with what's happening now. And what's happening now, we are flatlined. I ain't going, don't come to me, and I don't want to hear no long sermon about how great we used to be. I want to deal with what is happening right this minute. And what is happening right this minute is ugly. All of it. And black people ain't hitting on nothing, including myself. And that's the position I take. Why? Is that an intelligent position to take? I say yes. Why? Because when you look at it that way, that gives me the incentive to solve problems. Why? Because I'm the one with the problems. But if I take the position that, well, I got a whole lot of problems now, but I got a granddad that didn't have no problems because he knew everything. And then I walk around barefoot. That's not helping me. Every general in every army wants to know, first of all, what? Am I losing? Am I at a disadvantage? Because my job as a general in an army, and we are in a war, is to get in a position of advantage, which means I want reports that are accurate, and don't make no difference what the reports are if it makes me feel bad, because this is not about feelings. This is about getting the things that need correcting corrected. I think it was Harry S. Truman who said, and he used vulgar language, so I won't use that here on this podcast, but people will know what I'm talking about, I think. He said he does not want a blank kisser, referring to someone's rear end. He said he doesn't want nobody who does that on his staff. Somebody who's always coming in telling them something to make him feel good. He says, I want somebody who'll come in and tell me the truth about how bad I'm doing in my campaign, or how bad the war is going in Korea, or something like that. Give me, some people even have, down through history, said, give me the bad news first. I don't want to hear nothing about the good news. The good news will take care of itself. I want to hear the bad news, because that's what I'm going to have to deal with. And the code position, I'm going to say this to all the audience right now, is strictly that. I mean, I don't want to hear nothing about black people's progress. I'm not interested in that. That takes care of itself. No parades or none of that nonsense, according to the code. That's nonsense. Let's look at the problems and roll up your sleeves and get with them. Eliminate the problems. No hallelujahs, none of that. Jubilee time can wait. We can get around to that any old time. Don't waste your time and energy talking about something that happened 1,000,000 years ago. Use your time and energy now, because you only got but a little bit of time and energy. I know that's my case. I got just a little bit of energy right this minute. And by being logical, my time is very, very short for me to be around on this planet. And to use that time sitting around talking about what my grandfather used to be is a crime against my Creator. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes doing that. Ever. Of course, that's me. And that's what the code recommends. Don't spend not 1 ounce of time doing that. The counter races compensatory code. Spend all of your time trying to figure out how to get over that next obstacle, or the one that's right there in front of you right now, rather than go somewhere and sit on a log and talk about the things that you used to do. or even the things that you did yesterday that need doing. Say, okay, I've been there and done that. What's the next problem? It's like the batter at the mound. Hey, throw the ball. Say, well, what about that ball last game? That was the last game. This is this game. Keep your eye on the ball. That's where that came from, that expression.
Mm-hmm.
You start thinking about what happened yesterday, you're going to lose the series.
Wow.
I hope I made the point.
Let me see, Charles, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. But I also was trying to find out, could we handle it? I don't think that we could. I feel like we couldn't handle it by looking at what we're doing today.
We need a code for handling problems. That's all. This is the problem. Black people are flatlined. We don't have anything to brag about. We're the joke of the entire world. So how do you get out of that? By solving problems. That's how everybody is. That's how a baby makes progress. We are babies. The baby falls down, but the baby holds on to the side of the crib, to the top of the crib. If the baby's in a crib. The baby didn't know that 6 weeks ago, maybe. But by trial and error, the babies could look through the bars, you might say, and this definitely applies to black people. We're looking through bars. We're coming through the world looking through bars. Because we got all kind of bars against us. But we look between the bars, and we learn things like the baby does, looking through the bars of the crib, if they still have those type cribs.
Mm-hmm.
And the baby can see, oh, that person is doing something that they later find out is a thing called walking. So the baby tries to turn over and get up on those legs and do what the baby sees other creatures doing. And the baby falls down and cries, but the baby gets up again. People have watched babies. Lots of people who are listening to this podcast have had babies, the females. They have watched babies. You can learn a lot from watching babies. And we're still babies. So that fundamental doesn't change. You fall down when you first try to do something you haven't tried before. But you get up. Next thing you know, the baby's holding on to the rails on the crib. Say, oh, this is how you can stay up. And then the baby gets to the place where the baby can walk around in the crib like those other creatures do. Then the baby wants to do what? Get out of the crib.
Get out of the crib,
and walk around like those other creatures. But when the baby gets out of the crib, the baby starts falling down again. And it cries, and we cry, but we do what? Well, crying time is over. Time to get busy, solving problems. Because crying ain't helping.
Okay.
See, the baby finds out the crying don't help after a while.
Crying don't help. Okay. Thank you, Charles. You did good this time. Thank you. Mr. Fuller, we are coming in on the end of the program, so guess what we're going to do? We're going to talk about your book for about 3 minutes or so, and then we're going to have you close it out. So, Mr. Fuller, the floor is yours. Proceed, sir.
Yes, you can go to producejustice.com, and right now we're having glitches like you have in a war. You have setbacks. We're having a setback now in the production of the book for all kinds of reasons that are not reasons. They are excuses that I'm giving. But within the greater scheme of things, there are reasons, and it's all my fault. Why? Because I don't know enough about what I'm trying to do to keep my books available. But I'm trying to learn, like the baby that keeps falling down. And I do my little crying, but I see that doesn't work. So I'm getting up. I'm trying to get those books back on available. They're in 3 volumes, really, of the same book. One of them is obsolete, but a lot of people say it ain't obsolete. It's obsolescent. And so that I go along with what people say. What's the difference between obsolete and obsolescent? Obsolete means it no longer exists, and it can't be used for nothing. Obsolescent means it's just older, and it's been updated. So I have now the older version of an updated volume of the code. But that would be just for probably the next week or 2 at the very most. And then I'll have the updated version, the 2016 edition. It'll say so on the cover. And it'll be back on producejustice.com. When you go there, you'll be seeing it. And I have some word guides. They told me that there are some word guides that are left. And that part of the volume is 2 volumes, 2 books rather, of the same, 2 volumes of the same book. But the word guide portion tells you how to use words, which I've been trying to do on this broadcast today. How to use words, how not to use words. What words to ask questions about, and there are literally hundreds of them when other people use them. And recently there's been a whole lot of words in the English language that have come up, like mass shooter, active shooter. I've been trying to keep up with some of them. Yeah. And there are all kinds of slogans.
Okay, quickly, Mr. Fuller, who is the book for before we have to wrap it up?
It's for victims of white supremacy. Now, if you don't consider yourself as a non-white person to be a victim of white supremacy, then the book is not for you. You can go on and just read other books. But if you consider yourself being victimized, being harmed by racism in any way, small or large, and there's a leftover there, and you hear in the background from yesterday.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah.
Yes, right. We don't need no more of that. Black people need to hear no more gunfire at all ever again in life. But the books will help us to reach that goal.
All right.
No gunfire.
No gunfire, yeah.
Far backfiring, but no gunfire, nobody being dead from any means that is deliberate and malicious.
Yeah.
Go to producejustice.com.
Yeah, the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in the air.
Yeah, we don't need any more of that. We've had enough of that forever.
Exactly. Right. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers and Gmailers and people in the chat. You've been just with us. You helped us through the program. We made it through. So thank you, and we hope to do better next week. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.
Yes.